1987, the MVP races. Who won the AL MVP, Norbs, and who was the runner-up?
Well, it was a very, very close vote, actually. 16 first place votes against 12 between the winner and the runner up. The winner of the MVP in 1987 in the American League was George Bell of the Toronto Blue Jays. He was part of one of the best outfielding trios in Jays history with Lloyd Moseby and Jesse Barfield. Bell had his great season that year, hitting 308, 47 home runs, and led the league with 134 RBIs. 605 slugging, 957 OPS, 352 on base, 118 hits, and 111 runs. Terrific guy. Also played in his first All Star game that year. The Blue Jays nearly won the East Division title in '87, but
Yeah.
collapsed down the stretch, losing their last 7 games, including a 3-game sweep against their fierce rivals back in the day, the Detroit Tigers, in the final series of the year. The Tigers would end up clinching the division, pushing the Jays back 2 games in that standings. The runner-up that year was Hall of Famer Alan Trammell of those Detroit Tigers. He actually replaced All-Star Lance Parrish in the lineup because Parrish left for the Phillies. Alan Trammell took the 4 spot in the lineup and went on to have like his one of his best seasons of his career. Hit 343, 28 home runs, and 105 RBIs. 551 slugging for an infielder. It's amazing. 402 on base, 953 OPS, 21 stolen bases, 205 hits, and 109 runs. In September of that year, he batted 416, not 316, 416, 17 RBIs, and went on an 18-game hitting streak, which was instrumental in defeating the Jays for the division crown. However, the Tigers fell to the Minnesota Twins in the LCS, 4 games to 1. They lost in 5 games there. A definite fair for me, although it was very close. I mean, George Bell deserved to win the award. His 134 RBIs and his slugging was absolutely great. Like he was part of a great Blue Jays team that had Lloyd Moseby, Jesse Barfield, and even Tony Fernandez, who also had a great year that season. Uh, Alan Trammell was just as good, and kudos to him for filling in the cleanup role after Lance Parrish left the team. And I feel that that season alone is one of the many reasons that he was inducted to the Hall of Fame.
This is definitely the stumper for me when I was looking at who won the MVP and who did it. Andre the Hawk Dawson, the right fielder for the Chicago Cubs, won the MVP that year. He led the NL in home runs with 47, RBIs with 117. He was fifth in hits, but he's only 10th in OPS. Like his OPS was under 900. I mean, for a slugger, that's like mind-boggling. He wasn't even the top 20 in batting average, not even the top 40 in on-base percentage. Have you ever heard of like a guy winning MVP who's not even in the top 40 in on-base? Like most guys have at least a 400 on base or something like that. He ranked 19th in WAR, which I know WAR wasn't really a thing, but at the same time, like looking at that now, it's his stats were really good. I mean, the Cubs actually had a prolific offense. But they had a different offense than the St. Louis Cardinals that year, and that's where we get the runner-up in the MVP race is Ozzie the Wizard Smith, shortstop for the Cardinals. The Cardinals won the division and the NL pennant that year, and then they lost in the World Series in 7 games to the Twins. The Cardinals were first while the Cubs were the dead last. They finished 18 and a half games back of the Cardinals.
Oh my Lord.
So Andre the Hawk Dawson won the MVP on a last place team who had other players with stacked numbers. Like looking at the stats, Ozzie had 43 stolen bases, which was second in the league, he had 43 stolen bases. He was second in the league in hits and doubles. But I think his defensive wizardry, that's where he gets his name from, gave him the favor with the voters. He's so flashy and brilliant. He led the all NL shortstops with a 987 fielding percentage. He only committed 10 errors. And he led all position players, all of them, in the NL with 516 assists. That's incredible. Like to know how this guy got to so many balls that got guys out that most guys wouldn't. he was number 1 in defensive WAR, and he was number 5 in offensive WAR, which is a shocker because if you look at the difference between him and Andre Dawson had 47 homers. You know how many Ozzie Smith had that year? 0. Like, I never thought I'd see an MVP race where it came down to a guy with almost 50 homers and another guy that had 0. Like, he didn't contribute at all with home runs. I mean, the Cubs team led the NL in home runs with 209, so they were just a home run hitting team. But the Cardinals were dead last with 94 home runs. It's so unbelievable to see the polar opposites of these two guys and their teams. Like, they didn't even hit 100 home runs as a team. Like, that's incredible. But they still scored the second most runs because they're more of a hit and run team. And the Cubs are at the bottom of the pack in runs, which means a lot of their home runs, like, they didn't have a lot of impact to me. And if they did, they would have won more games instead of finishing dead last. You know, Cardinals only had 3 guys at double digits and only one with more than 12 home runs. Well, one guy with more than 12 home runs. Like, I couldn't believe that. That was Jack Clark. He actually ended up being 3rd in the MVP voting. I mean, both guys, you know, when I look at this, both guys didn't hit for a high average. Both guys had awful OPS. I mean, the Cubs had a prolific offense, yet finished dead last, while the Cardinals, they had more of a hit and run offense, and they won the division. This is a tough one for me. I don't always believe in awarding MVPs to players who finished on last place teams. But, you know, the way I decided to break it down was that if you take Andre Dawson off of the Cubs are still a last place team. You know, how valuable is he to the Cubs doesn't mean anything in the overall success of the team. It's like playing on a beer league team, a beer league hockey team, where one guy on your team scores all the goals, yet you still get blown out and lose every game. Like, he's your best player, but you end up losing every game. If you take Ozzie off the Cardinals, his base running and defense alone were so good that year and valuable to the Cardinals. I mean, they'd miss him so much. So, therefore, in my opinion, the MVP of 1987 was completely and utterly foul. I think it's one of the worst awarded MVPs I have ever seen. It's right up there with Alex Rodriguez, who finished on a dead place last place team with the Texas Rangers. Like, I don't care if he had 57 home runs. The team is terrible. With or without him, they're terrible. So, I don't know. I'm sick of the whole idea of playoffs being the reason guys should be awarded MVPs, and then you go the other way, and it's like, well, why did this guy get MVP? Is it because a lot of the voters are Cubs fans? Like, I don't understand. How did Andre Dawson win the MVP that year? Oh, man. I'll never forget this 1987. I wish Ozzie Smith won the MVP just so you can say that there's only one MVP in MLB history with 0 home runs.
Poor Ozzie. He went down the vortex, too.
I guess he couldn't weave his magic wand to hit a home run or two. Like, he couldn't pop a couple, like, when he played against the Cubs in Wrigley Field. If the wind wasn't blowing one way, oh, look, he got a home run. 0 home runs. Oh, doctor.